map is Neo Planet S. Spawning in the bottom left-hand position. All right, never mind, guys. Spawning up in the top right-hand position as the red Terran from KT Rollster. His name is Flash, the ultimate weapon.
His opponent, he needs this victory and drag it out into set number 6. His name is Terminator, playing for Kespa teammate.
So PVT, Planet S. We saw some very strong timings on this map recently. Parting fell to a Terran player, I believe it was Light. He went for the Hellbat SCV all in here. Could we see that from Flash this game?
It's highly possible, but it really depends on what Flash decides to open up with. Is he going to cheese? Is he going to go for the third command center? Or is he going to do something out of the ordinary and just go for regular play with the racks first and then the command center?
We'll have to wait and see here, guys. It looks like we will see a barracks opening here from Flash. Yep, there goes down that barracks. The real question is going to be, will we see a refinery quickly from him or not?
It's almost likely at this point. Yes, he does put down the refinery.
There it is.
There's not that many players to go for the racks expand anymore. It's either 15cc or racks into gas.
Yeah, definitely. And the reason why that is because if you go for that 15 or 14cc, you can get those extra 2 racks up quite fast, and you're able to defend against the Oracles without too much of an issue. But if you do the standard opening, rack CC without gas, then sometimes you won't have enough units out in time, and that's why we see the gas opening, because that allows you to get that reactor up faster or go into that factory tech a little bit faster.
And also use the wooden mines to defend against the Oracles, which is quite nice, but it really depends on what Flash is going to do from this racks, and he's going to go for the Reaper, so he's going to scout around what his opponent has, you know, put on a little pressure with the Reaper, and just expand right after. Most likely it's going to be the reactor expand build coming out by Flash. His opponent, Terminator, is sitting on 1 gas at this point.
Yeah, only going for 1 gas. That generally points to our Protoss player here going for a fast expand. He should be doing that quite soon here, and I like where this probe is positioned right now. He's going to know exactly when Flash goes for that expand, and that Reaper, it looks like it won't see it here, and that probe at the same time going to move in here now and probably force that Reaper to move back at this point. No, it looks like Flash just going to be sending out another SCV to kind of take care of that probe, but pretty much all is revealed.
Yeah, and Terminator, since he's only sitting on 1 gas, he can get the Nexus up much faster than if a Protoss player went for the double. But look at this really nice block by Flash. He doesn't want Terminator to actually expand in this game.
Yeah, so Flash already taking a small lead here by killing off that probe and delaying this expansion by a lot longer than Terminator would have wanted it to be delayed here. So
yeah, he's already sitting up to 500 minerals.
Yeah, the Reaper has essentially already been worth it at this point, and it's even been able to get 2 probe kills overall here so far from Flash's side, and delaying that expansion, no, not bad.
Look at the expansion timing by Flash and Terminator. Look at this. Terminator just started his Nexus, and Flash is almost done with his Nexus. He's even building an engineering bay inside the main base to make sure that he could build the turrets and have enough static defense back at the main base against the Oracles. But of course, now the Terran players figured out, well, if I get an early engineering bay, why not? Go for really fast +1.
Exactly, and we do see quite a fast forge from Terminator as well here, so upgrades from both sides going to essentially, cancel each other out at this point. We also have a Robo on the way behind this from Terminator, playing it very safe, getting a Sentry as well. That Warp Gate tech will finish momentarily here, and at this point, Flash is just going to start macroing up. With that +1, we may see some type of timing.
Yeah, it seems like that's what Flash is going to go for. His opponent, Terminator, since he's only sitting on 1 really fast forge, he's just going to get the +1 armor, add in the second forge later on in the game, and go for double upgrades. Something standard by the Protoss players these days when it comes to PvT.
Alright, and a few more racks getting added on for Flash here, getting a second refinery as well, or maybe, yeah, it looks like second right there. Besides that, though, nothing really interesting to note from either side here. Just an observer on the way from Terminator here, so he's going to go ahead and start scouting his opponent and seeing everything We'll probably be able to point out a very fast +1 from Flash as well, but it may actually finish before the Observer gets over the Flash's base.
I really like the fact that Flash is not taking an early third command center. A lot of Protoss players are trying to abuse that against Flash, and this time he's saying, well, I know how to play a standard game. I'm just going to go for the factory, I'm going to get the third command center just like all the other Terran players out there, and I'll still show you that I could beat you without going for the greediest build possible in this matchup.
Flash just patrolling everywhere here. He wants to make sure that he has pretty much everywhere on the map covered with Marines, with that Reaper. So if any type of air attack comes, he's ready for it, man. He knows what to do, and it won't do any damage to him. +1 armor now on the way for Flash. In addition to Stim, also we have +1 armor just about to finish for our Protoss player as well, and the starport is revealed here from Flash. So now Terminator, he knows the timing of Flash and everything essentially, and he's got to know that there's an Observer in his base at this point as well.
He knows that he doesn't have that much tech out for himself. Twilight Council just started. He doesn't have a Robo base, so that's why he's making the Immortal a little emergency maneuver over here, because he knows that the gateway units aren't gonna be enough. So he's gonna use the Mothership Cannon and the Immortals to deal away the initial drop play from Flash. But is that going to be enough?
Quite interesting. Getting a second forge here, researching that +2, going for that Immortal.
+1, +2?
Yeah, +1, +2. The real question here is going to be, will Terminator go into Templar tech very fast here, or is he going to eventually go ahead and get those Colossi? That's the real question here.
It really depends on what he wants to do, but right now he's spending all of his gas into the upgrade, so it's kind of hard for him to switch out unless he really wants to get low gateway count, and then only depending on force fields and high-tech units to defend against this timing from Flash.
All right, now it looks like Flash is starting to move out across the map here. Stim, +1 armor, and combat shields are all going to finish around the same time. We have an armory and a third command center going up behind this. The Medivacs heading over to this attack here. Flash going to go for around that 10-minute timing. A little bit later, this Observer will spot everything here, but Flash at the same time. Does he spot that Observer? That's the question.
Yeah, this is the timing where Flash looks really scary against his opponent. Now he's going for the third, Terminator is going for the third Immortal, but charge is only halfway done, and it seems like Flash wants to pressure his opponent a little bit. Once he gets the third and the fourth medevac out, I expect him to go for a drop inside the main base while also trying to attack into the natural at the same time.
Yeah, definitely possible here, but this Protoss army looking pretty formidable here. I would not be so keen on attacking that if I were Flash here. And I think he just wants to put on some pressure here on his opponent. And is he going to go for the attack? Waiting for a few more units potentially here. The third command center is scouted from Terminator. And now all Flash has to do right now is essentially delay the third base of his opponent. We've seen this strategy from him before. Is he going to go for it this time around, though? We already have +2 armor finishing as well.
He needs to watch out when the charge finishes.
Yeah.
He has tons of force fields mixed in, and with the charge finishing up, he's going to slowly push out and put Flash out of position. It was better for Flash not to engage into that army.
Certainly.
He can't fight the charge loss right now.
I actually got to say that this is a pretty cool build from Terminator here. He's got a very defensive army that's actually very sturdy and hard to deal with. He has those charge lots in his army. He has the Immortal meat. He does scan that fake Colossi there, so that'll be nice for him. But the few sentries as well. Overall, things just looking very solid for Terminator. He can't really be damaged right now, I want to say.
Yeah, Terminator is just saying, you know what, let me just make sure I survive this one timing from Flash. And Flash is saying, well, you will survive this timing, but I'm not going to allow you to take any extra expansion around the map.
Exactly.
So the problem is when Terminator starts pushing out, can Flash actually hold?
That is the real question here. Flash is continuing up his upgrades right now. +2 attack almost completed right here, but I don't know if we see a second engineering bay from Flash here.
We don't have a second engineering bay, but look at this. Trying to go for a better arc, but force field's cutting up a lot of army in the front.
Nice job there, killing off a lot of that army, but Flash, he's able to still force his opponent back a little bit, at least for now. This is still looking like a pretty strong army from the Protoss side of things. And now we have Templars. I don't think we have any Storm yet, but the feedbacks could certainly be damaging here. And Flash, he needs to do his best to micro against these units here, using the boost on the medevac, sniping off Lots of those Zealots back and forth, and they may be able to get that sentry. It does go down, but nice force fields from Terminator as well. The firepower of this Protoss army behind this force field, very formidable.
But look at this, the constant macro from Flash. He's just gonna power through with sheer amount of units. He doesn't care if the Immortals are strong against the Marauders. He's just saying, well, I have more units than my opponent, so I'm just gonna go for it. Try to stutter micro as much as possible, and look at the number of medevacs in this army. The Marauders are not dying.
They are simply not dying here. This is the power of the Bio Ball. If you do not force those Vikings out and you don't have a lot of AoE, you have a very strong army, but the problem is once the Terran player hits a certain critical mass of units, then it can be very hard to deal with. But now, with the reinforcements of those additional Archons, Flash is going to be temporarily forced back. The biggest issue, though, here is that we don't have a third base yet from Terminator.
We don't have a third base yet for Terminator. Yes, that's true, but also in this next army fight, Flash, he's going to start adding in Ghosts. He actually fought it really well without any EMPs on the main army of Terminator. And even if he loses some army here, like you said, 3 base to 2 base, which means that Flash is constantly getting those units out.
I also have to say the force field's definitely playing a huge role here in the success of Terminator still staying alive here. We do have +2 armor and that +3 attack on the way from Flash here, but 3-3, I think, or at least 3-2 already completed for Terminator here, and his upgrades, they're really showing right now. And looks like we could have a potential surround on this army. Good force field goes down, but there are no more force fields here, and the problem is this entire bio army can get fully healed quite easily here. Bunkers are being utilized now to defend against this attack. Terminator absolutely has to make something happen here if he wants to survive, and now SCV is getting pulled off the mineral line, but Terminator, the core of his army, has been killed here now. He's out of pretty much everything at this point, and things are looking so bad now for our Protoss player.
Yeah, and look at this. Terminator, he lost his unit composition. He only has 3 cells warping it at the same time. So in this time, did he successfully... GG!
All right, Flash just delaying denying that third base. And using some really solid micro there, just eventually preventing Terminator from doing anything but having the all-in, essentially.
A lot of Protoss players expect to win that timing when they have a lot of gateways, up to 10 gateways powering through from 2 bases, going for one really strong attack, and usually Protoss players would win. However, Terminator, he was not aware that his opponent was Flash. Flash has one of the best southern micro when it comes to PBT, and the Zealots, they always melt, so you always need to micro those Zealots back into the main army. If you don't, then Flash is going to eat away on every single one of those Zealots. And even if you have the great force fields, you don't have the Zealots in the main army composition, which means that you're not going to win the match no matter what.
That's true, and Flash really just showing some very solid macro overall there. We did see some decent force fields from his opponent Terminator here, but they weren't good enough, man. They weren't good enough, and worst case scenario, you can just medevac your units out of there and you're fine.
Yeah. And he just didn't have any Zealots. He didn't have any units to take down the medevacs. There was up to like, what, 10, 12 medevacs in Flash's main army?
Yeah, that was ridiculous, man. You don't let